Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this session. It's called Impact Entrepreneurship. It's going to be a very dynamic session, and I'm very thrilled to bring a series of experts to this ABBF in Hong Kong to share the two sides of what we call impact entrepreneurship. So in one hand, we have corporations and we have startups that are within their programs, within their mandates, within their focus. They are impacting not only entrepreneurship, but also impacting their own societies where they are present. But at the same time, we see the other side of the equation is how can they also impact their own corporations? How can they also impact the generations that somehow, and the people that somehow work with them? So I'm very pleased to have what I call a mega panel. We have 9 people. We have a very limited time, 1.5 hours. I know that at 1 o'clock it's sharp for lunch. I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to be looking at my watch to make sure everything ends up on time. And I would like to give all a warm welcome and thank you for joining us on this session. So I would start with Adriana Lika. So Adriana Lika works with HSBC, PayMe. I would like to ask her how, let me just go back to Adriana. I'd like to ask how corporations like HSBC are somehow creating this innovation from within and focusing on this entrepreneurship spirit.
So I think I'll start off just a really short introduction about who I am. My name is Adriana Lika, and I'm the head of commercialization at PayMe from HSBC. I oversee our product roadmap in the market. I'll probably do a quick show of hands. How many of you guys are familiar with PayMe? So about 10%. I'll take that as a win. I actually see some familiar faces in the crowd, so I know that you guys are familiar with kind of the roadmap that we've experienced here in Hong Kong. But for those of you guys who don't know, to answer your question, Pedro, I'm going to just do a short introduction about PayMe so everybody's familiar about this. So PayMe from HSBC is a social payment app that allows absolutely anybody in Hong Kong to send and request money instantly and for free. So there are a few players in the market, but we are actually quite unique in the sense that we are a social, simple, and completely secure payment platform. We also happen to be the #1 P2P payment app in Hong Kong. We currently have the largest market share, which is another win. And we have actually recently won a FinTech award, so the Grand Award in FinTech in Hong Kong at the Hong Kong ICT Awards. And again, I see some familiar faces, so you guys have probably been there together with us at the award ceremony. So I think what I'm saying is PayMe is an incredibly successful product that HSBC has rolled out. It's one of our most innovative products here in Hong Kong, and I look forward to sharing the story with you guys here today in the 5 minutes that you've given me.
Absolutely, that's why we have a mega panel now, very, very sharp and focused engine. I think Adriana brought a very interesting example, which is how can we somehow nurture entrepreneurship from within? So the big corporations normally, they either can create this entrepreneurship from within or they can connect with other companies. So from your view and your perspective, Adriana, how would you say, or what would you say are the 3 key factors for big corporations to somehow incorporate this intrapreneurship? So for those of you that are not aware or familiar with the term entrepreneurship, means entrepreneurship from within, from inside a corporation. How can corporations somehow succeed? What would be the 3 main factors for corporations to succeed in implementing this type of entrepreneurship programs?
Okay. So I'll start off slightly differently, I'm sorry. So the most impressive part about PayMe was the speed that it took to go to market. It took about 9 months from the moment that somebody pitched an idea to the moment we designed and developed it and actually went live last year in February. So we've been live only slightly over a year. So what are the 3 kind of key enablers that you ask? There's probably more than 3, but I'll focus on the 3 important ones. Number 1 is to roll out something so quickly, to behave like a startup, right? We actually needed to change the way we at HSBC behave. So we needed to become a startup, basically. So within the HSBC, PayMe is known as kind of an in-house startup, right? Which is something completely unique and something that we're incredibly proud of. So what does this actually mean practically? This meant that we needed to be completely co-located. So we couldn't rely anymore on working with cross-functional teams that were across borders, let's say, for example, right? We needed to have all the right key stakeholders, from senior leaders to the executional team, to be completely in one space. So for that space, we actually chose it to be WeWork. We started off in the WeWork space in Causeway Bay, if you guys are familiar with it. Right? So that enabled us all to be completely in one space, to be able to go at an incredible pace, to be able to make the right decisions at the right time, all in one space. This was in co-location. I can't stress how important it was. Second enabler was the people that we employed. So again, you want to be a startup, you better bring in some fresh talent, right? So the people that are within our team, they are a cross-functional breed. We've got some people who've been only in startups, then we've got people with an incredible knowledge and background in the banking world, right? So it's a mix of both, and without that mix, Amy would not exist today. So for example, myself, I've been brought in from an external, non-HSBC network. So I come from a startup and a retail experience in Hong Kong. So I am very familiar with the Hong Kong market. But again, somebody like me could, kind of guide a team that has never rolled out a startup in, what is the framework that's needed? How do you actually, what kind of design team do you need? What kind of development team do you need? So a lot of those elements that are not really familiar to HSBC. And I think for the third one is, that is an easy one to take away for a lot of corporates. It's creating the launchpad for idea sharing. So within PayMe, again, this happens kind of on a daily basis now, but we have a sharing forum from senior leaders to executional team where absolutely anybody can come in and say, hey, I think this product can be better. Here's an idea. Could we test and learn it? So creating that kind of platform where absolutely anybody can come in with an idea and pitch it and make sure that it's being heard and it's being tested and validated was incredibly powerful in not just launching PayMe, but actually the continued success that we've experienced in Hong Kong.
And I think that there's very good points in terms of this is a very interesting, successful case of how entrepreneurship actually came from an idea, a concept, and somehow is out to market and it's thriving. So, and I also heard a couple of SDGs that somehow can be peppered throughout what you guys are doing there. So in a very kind of a brief final statement, what would you say that your team and HSBC PayMe, how are they contributing to the SDGs?
So I'll speak on behalf of the PayMe team rather than the greater HSBC. So how is PayMe contributing to some of the SDGs? Apologies for my accent. So I think number one that I would choose is, and apologies if I got the number wrong, but it's number 9, which is the economic growth. Or is it number 8?
So we have economic growth. So we have number 9. We have innovation infrastructure.
I'll take that one too.
Number 8.
I'll start off with number 8, which is how do we contribute to economic growth in Hong Kong? We actually do that through partnerships with both startups and our corporate clients, right? So when PayMe rolled out, we actually partner up with some of the startups within the co-working space here in Hong Kong. So we partner up with a relatively small startup, which is called No Team. Some of you guys might be familiar with it, but it's a content marketing platform. But again, we partnered up with them last year, and we helped them grow. We helped them grow not just in Hong Kong, but globally. So I think the power of HSBC has quite a lot of gravitas, behind it. We can help not just large corporates flower, but actually the small startups here in Hong Kong. So I think that number 8 SDG is something that we have quite a lot of potential to contribute to.
So it's a primary focus and then a lot of contributions for other SDGs as well. So thank you very much, Joanna, for the sharing. I will go from the spirit of entrepreneurship, which is the entrepreneurship from within the corporations, to a bit more of the external collaborations of how corporations are actually contributing to the entrepreneurial ecosystem and to impacting these entrepreneurial ecosystems through a variety of programs. And I would like to bring Ron Kwok from Microsoft to share a little bit with us their contributions and their programs in alignment and within the impact of entrepreneurship, both in Hong Kong, but also if you want to scale up a little bit more.
Right, so hi everyone, I'm Ron from Microsoft Hong Kong, actually just located in Singapore as well. So before we bring it into the startup ecosystem, let's start with in Microsoft. So internally, we actually run hackathons internally. So these are problems that we try to solve outside of our regular job roles. So these are time that employees and staff has taken time off outside of the job hours to try to solve problems based on technology that we have. and some of them have actually commercialized or launched on a voluntary basis. So internally, there's a very strong entrepreneurial spirit that I think some people might not be aware of. Microsoft sounds kind of big and slow, but internally, there's a lot of passion going on. So externally, what we're doing is we're actually partnering with a lot of different startups and startup ecosystems like WeWork and a lot of the local ecosystem to try to grow them. We have a team of evangelists. Like when I first heard this name, I thought evangelist. That sounds like a really cool title. What does that mean? So what they do is they introduce our new technology and enable them to develop these new tools that can solve the problems that are due to their hearts. So what ultimately happening is Microsoft is just selling its own products, but we're trying to empower other companies to build their products so that they can solve the problem that's due to their hearts. So I think that's what we're very involved in right now, is helping others, educating the new ecosystem on how we can leverage our technology to provide solutions to their problems.
So it's both the technological spectrum, but it's also the educational part, so kind of allowing people to kind of connect with your type of technology to allow them to then go to market, to allow them to launch companies and so on. So within all these projects, what would you say are the main challenges that startups or teams that have worked with your projects that you see facing?
So we work with a lot of startups, and I think what stands with some of the problem is that there's a lot of disconnect between their ideas and how to bring them to life. So that said, it's the ideas, right? So we have these great ideas coming to life, but they lack the technology, they lack the expertise to build it. Or they have the expertise, but they also lack how do you roll it out commercially to make it sustainable? Or how do you make a big impact? So in these evangelizing activities, we don't just teach them about the technology, but there's also different aspects to be thinking about. So things like how do you roll it out, go to market? How do you get funding for your projects? How do you get some attention? How do you expand outside of Hong Kong? Should we just be focusing on one specific problem, or is it solving multiple? So I think we try to broaden the horizon on how the product can impact others' lives more than what they have originally envisioned. Now, I think some of them would idealize a little bit too much about how the products could be forming. And I think we bring in like a more realistic view on how to bring it forward with all the startups.
And within all these programs, give us 2 or 3 examples of teams that have worked with you guys that probably didn't have resources elsewhere in terms of education, in terms of financing, in terms of all these kind of business preparation. And when they started, when they came out, can you give us like 1 or 2 very brief examples of these types of teams that work with you guys?
So locally, we don't do any venture investments, but what we do is we have these startup programs, so we offer credits that they can use on our cloud platform. And there's a program called BizSpark, where we're supporting them on the education level as well as credits. And one of the graduates, I can't disclose their name, but they are doing a cryptocurrency trading platform that's based in Hong Kong. And that's now going live, and they're now employing established sustainable business going forward. So, and there's a few of these that are catering to large corporations. It's not just startups going to consumers, but they're also serving large corporations, and some of them are NGOs. So there's a variety of them where I think it puts a twist on what we think startups are. Generally smaller teams, they're groups of 3s or 4s serving consumers, but that's not the case. They're very forefront of technology. They're doing cryptocurrency trading. There's not a lot of companies doing that locally, and we're very proud that they're one of our now partners in the ecosystem.
Okay, and very very much in line with what Adriana was saying, which is we have a couple of SDGs where we're very keen to focus on. We have a very main results, but you probably also paper throughout the SDGs. What would you say that the programs that your teams are involved, how can they somehow collaborate to the SDGs, since it's the main topic of this APBN?
Right, so for the purpose of this, I'm just going to pick out the evangelist team of Microsoft on the startup ecosystem. And I think it does connect 3 main ones, one SI. It was on the education, number 4. Industry innovation, number 9, and then driving economic growth. So it's a whole journey of educating them from the beginning, and then driving that new innovation in the industry, and then further to scalable growth in the economy, hiring, expanding outside of Hong Kong. So these 3, I think it's a very strongly connected SDG that we're providing to.
So without discouraging our audience to indulge in lunch later on, I would just like to kind of bring back to David. I think it's a very interesting theme. As you can see, David is very passionate about plant-based food and about the contribution, about the impact that it has to the global, on the global perspective. I would like to bring back to David in terms of, we're talking about basics here, right? We're talking about the waters, the accommodation, we're talking about food. So my question to you, David, is, are these main blocks just for the big corporations, or can startups also make a dent, either small or big, and also contribute to this, I wouldn't call it revolution, but to the next stage of what food can be?
Well, this certainly is not limited to big corporations, although they play a big part of it. We all eat, right? 7.6 billion people. Every one of us, we consume food 3 times a day. Some people consume more than 3 times. Okay. So everyone can make a difference, and that's why we created Green Monday 6 years ago and Green Common 3 years ago. Green Monday is a social movement, is a sustainability movement, is a health movement that we simply advocate everyone to change their diet 1 day a week. We suggest Monday as the symbolic beginning, but of course you can do Green Wednesday, Green Friday, Green as many days as you like. And then we use that as a campaign to partner with big corporations. So in fact, we work with HSBC. At the cafeteria of HSBC, they have been supporting Green Monday for many years in terms of increasing choices of plant-based food. But at the same time, we also work with a lot of startups.
And do you, as a very briefly, because we have to go to the next panelist, do you see that there is a space for startups within the whole supply chain, meaning from production to the rest, to the distribution, to the logistics, transportation, restaurant business, potentially all the way to the end, which is food collection and food export and so on. So do you see that there's startups or can contribute to these different parts of this chain?
I think you said all of them, you listed all of them in fact. Food chain is a complex industry. The whole entire value chain is complex. In each domain, each area, there is room for improvement. There's room for disruption. So we play a part of that, and we partner with many companies who do the rest. And there's so much to be done. So there's no doubt, I believe, and many people are seeing that in terms of food innovation, this is kind of out of necessity, but it's becoming a very hot industry for innovation and startups.
Thank you very much, David. And within this spirit of food and pre-lunch, because lunch is at 1 p.m., I'm going to bring Raymond Mack. He's the founder of Pharmacy in Hong Kong. Still within the spirit of entrepreneurship, what these guys have done is they brought agriculture to the center of Hong Kong, and not only to the center of Hong Kong, but to the center of Causeway Bay, right? Yeah. So Raymond, share a bit with us, how do you guys bring agriculture into the center of Causeway Bay, into the busy fashion district of Hong Kong, and share with us a little bit about your experience.
Thank you, Rafael. I have to thank David because he helped me to do a lot of talking already. And I did try to do it Beyond Burger when I was in Central working. So now I switched my working space in Causeway Bay. I think, by way of introduction, I'm Raymond, co-founder of Pharmacy. As what Pedro just said, we want to bring agriculture possible in the heart of the city. So right now we have a laboratory farm in Fashion Walk, Causeway Bay. I think the whole concept of our business is actually 2 parts. The first one, reducing carbon footprint definitely. Second is getting better control of our food, especially on the land. I think all of us here will know Hong Kong is a very small city. And then we have a lot of excuses in the past. We say, yeah, a lot of land, we don't have farmland. We have a lot of people, so we have to maximize the value of our land. So you cannot really find a lot of farmland, especially in the heart of the city. So we depend on others, right? There's actually very, very scary figures for me. More than 98% of our vegetables are actually imported. So you can see in Hong Kong, only less than 2% of the vegetables are actually homegrown, right? So we really want to change this landscape and kind of behaviors. We want to farm in Hong Kong and for Hong Kong people. So that's the basics of the thing. But then we cannot just use the land. We have to make good use of the technology. That's why we call it laboratory farm in Causeway Bay. So I think that's the basic of our business. But then, of course, we cannot, do all the crops in such a small land, right? So in this laboratory farm, we focus on 2 things. The first one is the edible flowers. Second one is rare herbs. Of course, in our long-term vision, it's not about only doing these very limited types of vegetables. We want to go far. But at the first place, as an innovation, we want to collaborate with different people. We want people to speak for us. We don't have good marketing budget. That's why we want to go very, very specific and say, hey, why don't we grow really high quality, show people that even in the heart of the city of Hong Kong, we can grow really, really good stuff. And then the top chefs in Hong Kong can use it and help us to promote it. You know, rather than you spend a lot of money in the supermarkets doing all the marketing campaign, you just let people know our name, right, for the things. So that is, at the beginning, we want to go for high end, but then on the midterm and long-term vision, we want to use IoT and also other things that I can share later, you know, to really, really penetrate in the communities and homes.
So that we can somehow share the framework that you guys have used, because you're a startup, right? So you're a team of young people, you just, you're professionals, you also finish your MBA and so on, you went straight to the entrepreneurship side.
Yep.
You're also addressing innovation.
Right.
So you're also addressing the food market.
Yep.
And you're also primarily focusing on high-end market, right? So my question is, other people like yourself that may want to launch something within these 3 points, the innovation, the high-end, and the food business, do you guys need to have large pockets, meaning high financials, contribution or a lot of investment, or can you, within a collaboration, within an ecosystem, can you somehow build it and somehow bootstrap to start with, and therefore grow your business? Can you share a bit about your experience on that part?
Well, I think, yeah, it's a good question. People may imagine that, oh wow, you're doing something conservation with a lot of capital, you know, back up in your pockets. My answer is no. I think during the whole startup experience, right, we collaborate with different partners. Okay, I think, you know, to make a startup very successful, it's not only about your ideas and also, you know, the power of the market. You have to understand what people need, right? So when we say we want to enable the farming in the city, we have to, you know, talk to landlord who really want to change, you know, their malls and also their development into a really new stuff. So that's why we target Fashion Walk and then say, you know, why don't we collaborate on something? And then at the same time, I think, you know, in the whole vision, we are not only about growing, we're also about collaborating with other people. So right now I'm laboratory farming in Causeway Bay, actually doing some crossover with Agabe-Granfar, where they really have a passion to use our warehouse to make their beers and also the cocktails really a special flavor. So that's why we collaborate in a 3,000 square feet you know, spaces there. And at the same time, we cannot do everything on ourselves, especially for the long-term penetration to the communities. So that's why we start talking to IoT developers, and then we say, you know, not only about the machines, but then, you know, on the software to really managing the data that we create and collect in our laboratory from every day. So how can we make it really usable and also, you know, ready for future automation is actually something that we're looking for.
So what I've heard, Raymond, is that beyond the financial side, which is also important because there's costs, there's maintenance and so on, but a strong emphasis on collaboration, either local collaboration or cross-local or cross-regional collaboration, is probably one of the reasons that you guys can somehow launch and bootstrap it and be on the market so fast. And I believe that this collaboration will be still on the top of your agenda as a startup, not only with a local ecosystem, but potentially with other local ecosystems in Asia Pacific as you may decide to expand, right? So on this point, I know that you guys also were part of an incubation program. So would you like to kind of share a bit your opinion about the importance of this layer of education to allow young people like yourselves, young men and young women like yourselves, to somehow go from the idea point to the execution side and then bringing something to market to potentially succeed. I mean, knowing that you have the valley of death of the startups being 90–95%, so the odds are against the entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah. I think the incubation program is very important and it's actually the foundation of you know, our experience so far, because when you have an idea, it's not about, you know, pushing it to the market and then, you know, to gain support from the investor. It's about the attention to details. Make the idea very executable. And a very small changes and mistakes on this executable plan will change your whole future. So that's why in the incubation program, we test a lot of our details there with a large network of audiences and also some mentors. We not only talking about ideas, but then we talk about where's the location, where's the rents, and then where's our financial models, what should be the good use of the technology at the very first stage, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So all these kind of details, right? You cannot just complete yourself. I mean, in incubation program, there would be a lot of experience and also technical people that they can help you to really complete your idea gradually. So yeah, that is a really, really good experience at that time.
Thank you very much, Brendan. We spoke about collaboration, we spoke about food, and we also spoke about the importance of education, right? The importance of education to ensure that people have the right knowledge to be able to go to the next phase of their projects. And on this point, I would like to bring Dr. Gareth Wilson from Loughborough Design School. Give us a bit of a share about what you guys do at Loughborough Design School, but at the same time, within this focus or within the scope of collaboration project that you have done with Asia-Pacific entrepreneurial ecosystems.
Sure, thank you very much, Pedro. Yeah, so just a bit of background. So, Loughborough Design School, I don't know if people are aware of us, but we're based in Loughborough University, and that's about in the sort of the middle of the UK, and we're actually rated as one of the top design schools in the entire country. What's quite relevant here is that one of our specialisms is in UX design, so user experience design, and that's where design's focused on the user. So it's focused on understanding the user needs, their desires, their values, their pain points, etc. And it's about turning that into a better experience via some sort of service or maybe some sort of product. But what was quite interesting was this sort of expertise was sort of recognised by the chairman of the UN's ESBN's Women and Youth and Women's Entrepreneurship Taskforce, and this sort of specialism was sort of recognised. But it was also there's an increasing interest in Hong Kong about how we can understand the user and bring that into business development. So this resulted in our collaboration with the Hong Kong University's MBA program, the Business Lab, and this sort of collaboration manifested. Well, we've been doing it for 2 years now, and we've run it twice. Hopefully, we're going to be going on doing more. But it's resulted in this UX-a-thon style event, which is kind of like the hackathon that I guess Microsoft have been doing, but we've added our UX sort of angle at the beginning. And the way this has sort of worked is that our university, our students, our UX sort of students have acted as the design consultancy that have worked with the MBA students who have acted as the client. And we've had this real sort of dynamic process where we had this week-long event where it was all via sort of digital communication to start with, but it culminated in this one-day sort of design jam where our students worked on the branding, they worked on the strategy, they worked on the direction, they worked on products and services, and it was all from a very sort of user perspective.
Gareth, when you speak about user experience, we're talking about tech and non-tech, right? So
Yeah.
a train ticket can have user experience.
Oh, exactly.
But I just want to ensure that the UX goes beyond the technology. So if we're talking about regions in Asia Pacific that don't have that much access or plug into technology, UX is still valid and important, right?
Oh, of course it is, and it's also fair to say that it's very different where it is across the globe as well. So understanding the user experience, understanding the touch points, so all parts in the journey that somebody interacts with a service or a product, it's all relevant and it's all valid as part of that design process. So it's not just about let's design an app. It's about the thought process that goes before that. It's about the processes that go after that.
Excellent. I'm just going to touch on one point, which is you have a lot of companies that go to you with specific case studies where the students will work with their case studies. There's kind of somehow canned case studies where they have been worked before.
Yeah.
I would just like for you to get a bit of your comments to see, in one hand, how can we somehow expand these programs to other parts of Asia Pacific, but at the same time with a special focus on the importance of having beyond these canned case studies and actually putting teams that are creating something and
Yeah.
plugging in with other teams from cross disciplines. So in this case, we got business students with design and 3D printing and engineering backgrounds working alongside. What was the feedback that you got from the students and also from the academia side? What did you see difference of creating these programs that kind of are more on the active side?
Well, the first thing I say is that this whole program has gone beyond our expectations, really. I mean, it's been a very interesting project, and everybody, all the stakeholders involved with this, has got a lot out of it. So it's not just a benevolent educational university thing. We've all got tangible benefits from this. So our students, for example, they've got portfolio pieces. They've started to learn and act as professionals. So they're not just learning design skills, they're not just learning how to research or how to draw or model make, they're learning how to interact with business, which is quite a core skill that isn't always touched in a design school. And what's also quite interesting is that the students have a lot of the students have stayed connected as well. So it isn't about just speaking to some students that happen to be in the Asia Pacific. It's about carrying on that dialogue and building on that for future projects. You mentioned some of our partnering sort of businesses that we've worked with. So we've had mentors for the students from Deloitte Digital, which are a big design consultancy, international design consultancy. And they're also very impressed with the sorts of skill sets that it develops in our students. That have been sort of, off the back of this, they've already been recruiting or coaching our students. So it's been very good to see. And I'd also like to add that some of the businesses are starting to succeed. So, like pharmacy, for example. And I'd like to think that you can still see a little bit of Loughborough Design School just in there. I wouldn't say we're not going to take all the credit. We're going to take some of the credit.
But thank you, Gareth. I'm going to still grab that UX user experience, and I'm going to pass it on to Val Mitchell. Thanks for coming. With regards to, I'll just go a little bit back in this conversation to explain what is UX, what is UI. What is there a difference? Are they just technology? Are they technology and non-technological? So just a couple of words on that, so that we can frame the next question.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. User experience, perhaps, is quite a buzzword at the moment, but user experience design is a process. It's about putting people at the centre of design processes, understanding what they need, and this can be for products and services that have no technology, or products and services that are using new and emerging technologies, like Ron mentioned earlier. UI design, user interface design, is a subset of that broader user experience design process. It's about designing the detail of the user interfaces of the product. And again, that might be something that's paper-based, or it might be something through augmented reality or voice-operated, or traditional, we now think of them, traditional websites and apps. So user interface design is about designing the detail, and user experience design is about designing the right thing. So it's very much more strategic, much more thinking about the broader product in a system sense.
Okay. So if you're speaking about in an entrepreneurial environment where startups have limited time, limited resources, and their chances to succeed are very limited, are very low. How would you consider user experience or understanding the consumer before going and developing all these prototypes and getting all these funding and VC funding and so on, would be for people that are starting or somehow progressing their startups?
I think we found one of the real strengths of user experience design is it can help you identify these very subtle aspects of a product or service that might lead to it succeeding in the marketplace, rather than perhaps just being another technology-driven or great idea. Like was said earlier, there's subtle things. You have to get down to the real details to make a product successful. So for startups in particular, where you've got so little opportunity to fail, it might be your one shot at a successful product or service. If you spend time understanding who are your users, understanding their needs and motivations in detail, then you can create the best user experience strategy. You can really understand, well, what do people really desire from this product, what pain points we call them, what problems in particular could this product or service meet for people in a particular situation. But then you can move to the design of these of the user interfaces and make sure that that user experience vision is delivered to people in the best possible way for those particular target users.
Thank you very much, Val. I'm very keen to hear as well that user experience goes beyond the digital. So it can be high tech, mid tech, or absolutely no tech as well. And on this topic, I would like to pass to Joe. Joseph Sung from Hobabike. For those of you that have tried or have seen all these colorful bicycles in Hong Kong and a bit of in Asia Pacific, especially in China, Joe actually was one of the contenders that decided to launch this project. So in terms of combining tech with all these GPS technology and combining normal day products like a bicycle, share a bit with us your path to bring this idea to fruition.
Good afternoon. Like Patrick said, I introduced the first one of the bike sharing infrastructure in Hong Kong. Firstly, talking about Loughborough, I have to recommend them as more well. I studied in Loughborough 18 years ago, and it's one of my company I work for a sponsorship program. So I did a master there. So 6 degrees of relationship, always meet each other. So one day we'll meet again, I'm sure.
We'll be checking your UX.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Okay. Actually, I talk about the Hobabike. What we started to do 9 months ago, actually, we started back in 2016, and we spent 9 months in total from concept to market to launch. It's a very short period of time. I used to work in a big car firm doing product development, doing emission control, doing electric vehicles, automatic parking. That company, we spent all 5 years in making one generation of vehicle. So that's why sometimes you look at your car, why it's so outdated. Because by the time when we have the concept and then to the market, it is already, compared to your mobile phone, it's really old already. So we are as an early stage startup, as a small startup, we need to be quick to the market. So for that 9 months, actually, we felt very long. The reason was, originally, we aimed it for the world's market. We make the electric bicycle, because I used to have, as for my background, I used to do electric vehicles. So I thought the electric bicycle would be better. However, because Hong Kong forbidden electric bicycle, so we have to change our strategy. So we thought, actually, sometimes making a good product is not the winning solution. We also need to look at all the operation, everything. As Hong Kong is my home turf, I feel I have to start in here first. Also, Hong Kong is West. We have a big supplier chain behind us, and Hong Kong is can face the world's market. That's why Hong Kong is a very good place for any startup.
Thank you, Joseph, for sharing. And I think I will go from this part to something that goes back into the technological, the tech world, which is how can we somehow make use and leverage from technology to start virtualizing this cooperation, to start virtualizing this relationship between businesses, and how to virtualize this kind of connection between local businesses and global value chains or global markets in a way that it's feasible for local operators. I would like to bring Miguel. And first of all, tell us what this is all about, virtualizing business.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Very happy to be here, thankful and excited to share my ideas how we can impact entrepreneurship and the entrepreneur's ecosystem in Asia-Pacific. Very excited. My name is Miguel Cordeiro. I'm the managing partner of Medinvest Group. Medinvest mission is to develop technologies, disruptive technologies that can leverage, that can help the world go to a more sustainable digital world. We are developing for 1 year a technology based on virtual reality, that is the virtualization of events. Okay. Our platform called Virtual Fair can create a very big or very large, let's say 40,000 meters square virtual reality fair, complex, with high definition. You can see all the stands from above, from a big stand, from a second floor stand, but you also can see PDFs with fine letters printed. So everything is done without leaving the virtual environment. Also, it is very interactive. Okay, you can travel, you can see the exhibitors, you can see the PDFs, you can download it, you can see the videos, and you will later interact with avatars of the exhibitors.
So we also know, and we're very grateful that you have allowed for this first launch, which, by the way, starts on the mid-16th of May.
17th of May. Yeah, 1 month to
June.
16th June.
Yeah.
Yes.
You also allow, and you're very kind within your organization, to allow seats or free exhibition booths to a series of startups and SMEs. Share with us what was the reason behind that.
The reason behind is because, of course, we want to test this product. Because it's a new product, but also because we want to impact entrepreneurs. We want to impact globally. We want to give them the possibility to have their business promoted elsewhere, across regions, across countries, and also because we think this is a platform that where we can build new business models. We can build new social and economic interactions, and I think this will be the future of events.
So what you're saying is that within this virtual fair, if you're a visitor or if you're an exhibitor, you can actually walk around the fair without leaving your own living room or your own office and connect with a series of businesses all around the world, right? You can exchange business cards, you can speak more about their products, you can potentially foster business collaborations, you can kind of enhance so on.
Yes, yes. Yes, you can do all that stuff. You can also view conferences online, live conferences also. You can browse the documents, you can download them to your virtual bag. So it's an enhanced possibility that the physical, of course you have to have a bag in the physical, but you can do all those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. And since the last questions are always the best, I leave the last couple of comments here for ZhaAgabe. ZhaAgabe joins us from Papua New Guinea. We're very keen, we spoke before, and also with David Morris and his team with regards to how can we somehow start plugging in and bringing all these opportunities to different parts of Asia Pacific beyond the traditional China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, to ensure that, as the UN says, leaving no one behind. So I would just like to start with asking you, how do you see this entrepreneurial revolution or this entrepreneurial trend within the Pacific Islands, or very specifically within the Papua New Guinea?
So let me just put a backdrop on it so that when I answer Pedro's question, there's a little bit of understanding to that as well. Papua New Guinea, which is where I was born and raised, but I'm ethnically Filipino, is a country that is the most linguistically and culturally diverse country in the world. Has more than 800 different cultures, tribes, 1,000 different tribes. So with that backdrop, there's certain, things that come with that, and it's definitely influences the trends of entrepreneurship. It's really exciting to be sitting, and I'm very humbled and indeed honored to be sitting alongside some very big names in this space and in this region, in Papua New Guinea and the Pacific. Entrepreneurship, I think, is still walking with very practical feet in very physical terms. And the trends that I'm seeing specifically in Papua New Guinea, for example, are along the lines of are running parallel to the internet age and to access to digital mediums. I think the fact that this has now come into places like Papua New Guinea and is becoming more and more affordable, and seeing a lot more young entrepreneurs specifically who have seen the introduction of the computer. I grew up through this age in Papua New Guinea. We saw the introduction of a computer, everyone was wow. We saw the introduction of the internet, then we saw the introduction of mobile phones very recently in Papua New Guinea, and now social media. And that trend, which has really happened only in the last, within the last decade or so, we're very much at the beginning of our curve, has really significantly influenced the space of entrepreneurship. We see people, for example, in the fashion industry who are now trying to link with customers overseas. We see coffee growers or craftsmen who are trying to sell their products overseas. And a lot of these are simply possible because of the dawn of the age of the internet and social media.
In these last comments, I would like to first of all thank the audience for staying here with us for an hour and a half with this phenomenal panel. So I would like you to help you to thank the panel. And I would just also like to mention one more word, is that we spoke about so many different areas, from entrepreneurship to food, to specific type of startups, to enabling, to education, to reaching beyond the main countries in Asia Pacific, that I think that there is so much to be done. And I would like this not to be a conclusion of this panel, but to be the beginning of a future conversation that we can have amongst ourselves and amongst the people here on stage for specifically this collaboration towards the SDGs and the sustainable development or sustainable world. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.